Welcome to Ask Sean, where I explore all sorts of questions about life, relationships, and being human. I'm Sean Slevin, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And if you have a question you'd like to ask me, you can submit that anonymously at www.asksean.org. So in this video, I wanted to explore kind of this question around, are we doing something to avoid, or are we doing something to help us grow? And I've been thinking about this for about a number of different things, because really it can apply to all of life, I think. I was recording a video earlier about the Apollo Neuro, which is a nifty wearable device that can be helpful for calming our body and kind of good for our nervous system and whatnot. And I'm not sure if I'll be posting that before or after this video here that I'm making, but it was reminding me again, as I was talking about that how we approach things really matters. You know, are we asking something to kind of be a magic fix for us, or are we asking something to be what it can be and an aid on our journey? And this applies to so many things. Like, I think about just even my relationship with Instagram, which I continue to try to refine and heal. Instagram can be, a really lovely thing, can, be a lot of fun and whatnot, a lot of interesting content. But it's an easy place to just, totally distract myself. And so I ask myself the question a lot, like, why am I on the site right now? And I'm really trying to tap into the difference within myself between the feeling of avoidance, where I'm on the site because I'm avoiding some kind of feeling. And so I'm asking, the software, to help me avoid pain, discomfort, loneliness, whatever struggle, whatever the struggle of the moment is. Instead of taking more responsibility for myself and being like, okay, instead of maybe being on Instagram right now, I should be with my emotions in some kind of way, or maybe I need to take a nap, or go for a walk, or move my body, or talk to a friend, any number of things. So that's kind of where it's like the avoidance side, right? But I also can use Instagram in really constructive ways as a way to kind of have a sense of what's going on in some of my friends' lives, to be able to have little touch points between us that can facilitate our in real life relationships, which for me is part of kind of my goal. There's sort of the boundary I try to have with myself with something like Instagram is I want it to serve my real life relationships. I don't want it to take away energy from my real life relationships. But yeah, we can engage in this avoidance with anything. It's a normal human thing, but I feel like it's a particularly chronic American culture thing and Western culture, but especially American culture. I feel like we took sort of the whole idea of the pursuit of happiness, and kind of, which was part of sort of the philosophical aspects of the founding of this country, and something that I think, when rightly understood, is a really lovely, noble thing. And we've taken that and we functionally have turned it into the avoidance of pain. And I think this has all sorts of consequences for us as human beings and as a culture. I don't think that pain is our enemy. And that maybe is a kind of a provocative or controversial thing to say, but I'm not saying, I'm not in any way minimizing the difficulty of pain. Pain is painful. And I'm deeply acquainted with that personally. But without pain and without listening to our pain, we won't grow, and we'll, I think, actually get worse. I think we'll actually become less human. We'll damage ourselves and we'll damage one another. Now we see this on the physical level. There are certain physical disorders where people lose the ability to feel pain in certain parts of their body, or maybe all over their body. And like, it's very dangerous and it's very problematic, because they can't feel the pain of a hot stove. They can't feel when they've cut themselves while, cutting up vegetables. And so like, that's really dangerous. And could become catastrophic. So I'm not in any way trying to romanticize pain. Pain isn't fun. It is painful. But I think we make a great error when we make our goal just the elimination of pain, just the reduction of pain. I think we should be cautious and be careful about only aiming at reducing pain. I'm not saying there isn't a place for seeking pain reduction, but I think it has to be subservient to growth and healing. I mean, for example, like when I, if I've had like a medical procedure, or I'm sick, or, any of those kinds of things where I'm needing to take pain meds, part of how I'm thinking about taking pain medication for my body is like, I want to reduce the pain so that I can, for example, get good sleep, because I know my body needs rest as part of the repair process. But I don't want to reduce my pain too much if I am going to then be like, well, I feel great, I'm going to go run a marathon. Like, that's really not a good idea, like in any number of scenarios where like I'm ill or I've been injured or something. Like, and so you can feel there's a tension, right? Like, there is a helpfulness to reducing pain. But it takes wisdom to kind of really discern, like, how am I utilizing this? How am I utilizing pain reduction here? Like, what's the end goal? If the end goal is only to just not feel pain and just sort of feel better, feel good, and there's no kind of greater goal that's guiding it in terms of like, the healing of my body or the healing of my mind, my heart, my soul, then I think we inevitably end up in bad places. I mean, this is how addiction happens, right? Like, pain is feeling unbearable and we find something that helps us escape from it temporarily. And because we're not having as our ultimate goal that like, I want to actually like build my emotional muscles or build up my physical capacity to bear the beautiful burden of my life, because we're not having that goal, then it's like we just keep going to whatever the thing is, whether it's a substance or a behavior, an activity or whatever, to keep avoiding. And we become compulsive then because we're not seeking anything other than just sort of this basic existence of numbness, really. And so we can do this with all sorts of things. We can do this with work. We can do it with relationships. We can do it with money, with sex, with technology, certainly substances and whatnot. And we even can do this, and this gets just to kind of take it even into more provocative and delicate territory. We even can do this with psychiatric meds. So I think it is an amazing thing, the age that we live in terms of like the medical kind of technologies that we have, and the fact that we have psychiatric meds is like, I mean, what an awesome thing, right? Like that we have these medications that can, to a degree, can alter how we feel. used wisely, that can be really helpful. But I feel like the big elephant in the room in our culture and in the counseling field and the medical field is that we don't tend to approach psychiatric meds, like medication for mental health. We don't tend to approach that from the standpoint of how can this help the person grow and heal and live a fuller life. We tend to approach it from the standpoint of, here's a thing to fix you. Here's a thing just to make you feel better. Here's a thing to take away the pain. And this, the guilt on this is just as much on the counseling field and the medical field as it is on, any of us who have gone and sought medication, right? Because, all of us as Americans, we've been sort of born into a culture that has taught us that we shouldn't have to suffer, that we shouldn't have to struggle. We're in this funny time in history where we're under this fantasy, this delusion that somehow life isn't going to be difficult. When all the rest of human history and still a lot of places in the rest of the world are, not confused about that. And I'm not saying like, oh, life is suffering, suck it up. I'm just saying it's like hard being human. Like, it's beautiful being human, but it's actually a lot of work, and we're incredibly fragile, and like shit can go wrong so easily. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we believe this fantasy that like somehow it's not supposed to be hard, because then we think, well, what am I doing wrong? Or, we buy into this, what is frankly a lie, that like, oh, there's just something wrong with my brain chemistry, as if I'm like low on insulin for my brain or something. And so just, give me some more of that, which is not how psychiatric meds actually work. Like that's a marketing lie, and a lie that's fueled by our desire as a culture to like want simple fixes, to not want to have to do the hard work of healing, and of bearing the beauty and the burden of our human existence. So yeah, it's like the cost of this then is that it makes us smaller. It takes away our agency. It feeds us a lie that we aren't capable of growth, that we aren't capable of change. And that's kind of cruel, I think. That's not to say that it's cruel to have psychiatric meds, to be on them or to seek to be on them. The question is, are they needed, and why are you using them, or why are you suggesting them for a client? Like with any of these things, whether it's meds or any, Instagram or, work or sex or success or working out or shopping or money or whatever, like, what are we asking this thing to do for us? Like, are we seeking to be in relationship with it, whether it's a medication or something else, in a way that facilitates our doing the work of growth? Or are we asking it to fix us? Are we asking it to take responsibility for the burden and the beauty of our human life? Are we asking it to live our life for us? Because if we do ask that of something, if we ask that of a medication, if we ask that of a job, of a relationship, well, that thing will oblige us, and in the process, we give up our life. We give up living our own life. So there are times where I think psychiatric meds are absolutely necessary and are a great gift. They are not a gift without cost, right? Like, they muck with our brain chemistry, and not in a reparative way. Like, they actually tend to produce the way most psychiatric meds work, they actually perturb something that's working fine in order to produce an effect that in this instance is desirable. Now, in other circumstances, we would call that a side effect. And many of the psychiatric meds that are still in use, like, they were discovered because they were side effects of something else that was being tried out for a totally different purpose. But sometimes those side effects are useful effects. Sometimes they could be saving your life. The thing is, why would you want to just stop at saving your life? Like, Let them provide an opportunity for you to do the work to actually live a fuller life. To just take meds and to not do your inner work, to not seek to take responsibility for your life and your growth and healing, it would be like going and getting, a cast and crutches for a broken leg and then like never going to physical therapy. I mean, it's like you can do that. You can spend the rest of your life, with a cast, and with crutches. It is less of a life. It's not less dignity, this isn't about that. Like every life has value. But precisely because every life has value, we should want for ourselves and for one another to live as full of a life as we can. Now, in some cases, maybe we're not, we get the cast off and we go to physical therapy and we still are always going to walk with a limp. And the reality is actually all of us are walking with limps in some way or another. I know I certainly am. In some ways physically, quite honestly, and certainly psychologically. So this isn't don't let shame become a thing here, right? Like this isn't about our worth. This isn't about our being a good person or not, right? But, it's my responsibility to myself and honestly to the world to work with my limps as best as I can. Not in denial of having them, and not in the fantasy that somehow I can magically fix them, but to keep trying to work with them, keep trying to help them heal and strengthen as best as I can. Keep bearing the grief of the limp, the various limps. And in that grief, having a deep love for these parts of me that have suffered, these parts of me that have experienced loss, that have experienced trauma. But goodness, I don't want to just stop working, I don't want to give up, right? That's kind of what that is. That's a saying, it's a choosing to stop living. And is it Shawshank Redemption? That great quote, get busy living or get busy dying. So this is one of the things I long to see shift in our culture around everything, but especially honestly around psychiatric meds. I wish the conversation around psychiatric meds wasn't, here's the thing to make you feel better, but instead, well, let's talk about where are you in your growth journey? What's happening in your counseling? If you're not in counseling, then you need to get in counseling. That needs to be a requirement. And what needs to happen to make that happen, logistically, do you need some kind of financial aid, some kind of support? What are your insurance options? Let's talk about what kind of medication is going to be the right medication to support the difficult inner work that you're needing to do, that your soul is calling out to you for healing on. And so let's figure out, as doctors, prescribers, let's figure out what's going to be the right dosage that's going to give you enough support that you can continue to function, to go to your job so you can, have income and pay your bills, and so that you can make it to therapy, but not so much that's going to numb you out such that you can't access the pain that's calling out for your attention, right? Again, think about the hot stove, right? You're hurting because stuff is needing attention from you. This is the great thing we miss. Oh my goodness. It's when we just immediately use meds to tamp down on pain, when we say, okay, you're depressed, so let's just fix that, without asking, well, there might be a lot of reasons why you're depressed. There might be a lot of things that your soul is calling out to you, your psyche is calling out to you for attention, parts of you that you've been abandoning for years, for decades maybe. We don't want to shut that off. Now we may need to moderate it, right? So that you stay alive, that's important. But if we shut it off, then we've just furthered abuses that were done to you years ago. We're just adding a whole nother layer of dishonoring of what you've suffered. And that I mean, it breaks my heart. I mean, I think about how many years I have spent ignoring parts of me. Precious parts of me. Parts of me that deserve to be loved, that deserve to be seen, that deserve to be cared about, that deserve to have their pain witnessed. And out of my own avoidance, and I'm somebody who's very dedicated to my inner work, and not yet, nonetheless, I have had places I have avoided. I continue to discover like further corners of my soul that like, oh my goodness, this is a place that I have not been going. This is a place that I have neglected, that I have abandoned, that I've kept turning my back to and said, I don't want to deal with you. I mean, you think about that. If we saw somebody do that to a child who was crying, we'd be like, what is wrong with you? Go up and hold that child, hug them, like find out what they need. And yet we all do this repeatedly over and over again to parts of ourselves. And it doesn't have to be that way. This is the thing, right? Like we are capable of so freaking much. I mean, thank goodness we have meds. Absolutely. I don't want to take those away, right? But the way that we think about meds has this insidious lie that implies that we can't grow. That like, oh, this is just how you are. Sucks to be you. Like, your pain can never actually be felt and dealt with and metabolized. So let's just fix it, right? And then we feel ashamed because we continue to struggle because our soul won't be silenced. Our soul is like, you're not listening to me. And so it keeps manifesting in all sorts of different ways. And we try more and more meds. And we try different things to try to avoid. But it's like, but really, it's just all the parts of us crying out like, why are you abandoning us? Won't you just turn towards us and help us? And so, like, let us use meds or, job or relationship or Instagram or whatever. Let us use, hiking, anything. Let us use these things as ways to support the difficult work, not as ways to avoid it. Because we only harm ourselves. Well, no, we don't just harm ourselves. We harm ourselves and then we harm everyone around us. Like it's the cost is very high. But gosh, I mean, if the conversation around medication and around hobbies and around, all the things we use to cope, if it could shift into this mode of what is going to help you grow? What is going to help you flourish? What's going to help you do the hard work of bearing the beauty and the burden of your wonderful and challenging life? What's going to help you bear, the painfulness and the joy? I mean, because that's the thing here, is when we keep trying to tamp down on the pain, we also tamp down on the joy. We just keep sort of narrowing the range. Or if we think about it this way, it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually it's just kind of a flat line, like a dead person. And we wonder why we feel hollow inside, why we feel so empty, and why nothing is working to make the emptiness go away. When in a lot of ways, all the things we're doing is just making it worse. And that doesn't make us a bad person. It just makes us human. This is what we're all tempted towards, including me. But this invitation that I'm putting forth here, I'm putting out into the world, is don't run from your pain. I know it's hard. I know it's scary. I know it can feel too much. But there are people in the world who actually want to be alongside you. There may be friends in your life who actually would be so grateful if you opened up to them. Not that they'll be able to be there for you perfectly, because honestly, no one will. No therapist, no friend, no family member, no doctor. But they can be there enough. And there are therapists, there are mentors, there are spiritual leaders. There are people in the world who want to help, who want to help you. You don't have to do this alone, and you can't do it alone. None of us can. I can't. I've been in therapy a long time, and I will continue to be. And I have many relationships that I continue to develop and to cultivate, because I need help. I need community. I can't do this life alone. And no one can do this for us. You know, the medication can't do this for us. The thing I mentioned earlier, the Apollo Neuro can't do this for us. You know, even all sorts of various, therapy, modalities can't do this for us. They're tools, they're options, they're ways to help us do the work that we're being invited to do, whatever that particular work is. Whatever we're being invited to face and to be with and to bear witness to and to love and to support and to heal. I've been learning a lot about psychedelic assisted therapy, and I want to do a separate video kind of more just about that. And it's, that's an interesting topic in of itself. And potentially very provocative depending on kind of your background and whatnot. But one of the things I really appreciate about it, and this is just to be clear, like, this is legit stuff. There's lots of great research being done. So this isn't about recreational use. Like, what I'm appreciating, like kind of everything I'm hearing coming out of the research and whatnot, and about how it's approached, is that it's such a different approach than how we have been approaching medications. So it's really, it's one of the things that has had me thinking about this question that I'm kind of exploring here in this video. Though this is the kind of question that I come back to again and again for years, but it's just been on my mind again lately. But yeah, it's like part of how psychedelic assisted therapy is approached is it's not here, keep taking this thing to fix you. It's, we're going to use a substance at a specific point in time in a specific setting with a specific intention to facilitate doing some difficult inner work. And that, I think, that's such an intriguing, like, just the psychology and philosophy of that just feels so healthy. It's like, here's something to support you doing the hard thing that you're trying to do. And so what's awesome is it doesn't do the work for you. It makes it more possible for you to do the work. And then when you do the work, it's yours. You get to freaking own it. That's what's so lovely about this. And so regardless of whether, what you think about psychedelic assisted therapy, or whether that's something that you ever explore for yourself, and it's not yet legal. It's like it's allowed in clinical trials and in certain settings, and there's a couple of things that are legal. But anyways, so all of that's in process. But regardless of whether you explore doing that, in a kind of appropriate, safe, therapeutic setting or not, the therapeutic, philosophical, spiritual approach of this, of what's going to help you do the hard work that's before you, so that you get to own the work, so that you get to have that experience of, I did this hard thing. It is mine. Nobody can take that from me. Like again, that's part of the tragedy. If we approach meds as only, here, take this to fix you, we rob people of the chance to experience that they're capable of amazing fucking shit. Like the things that I have seen clients do over the years. There are not words. I have seen people radically transform their lives, the trajectory of their lives, over and over and over again. And yeah, I have a role in that and whatever. The point, this is not about me though. That's not the point. It's like they are doing the work. Like I can't do that for them. Like I'm not that powerful, okay? Like I facilitate them doing something that they once thought was impossible. And they do increasingly impossible things. And what is it from Alice in Wonderland? I've done at least 3 impossible things this morning or something. I'm mangling the quote, but yeah, it's just it's like a holy, like awesome cosmic thing when I experience a client doing things emotionally, psychologically, being with aspects of themselves, being able to make choices in their life that would have just been unthinkable, that even the idea of would have freaked them out once upon a time. And then for them to get to a point where they're just like, yeah, I went and did that thing. And they're fine. And they enjoyed it. And it was like this life-giving experience. And it's just like, holy shit. Like what a thing that I want to say, what a miracle. But that doesn't quite get at it, right? Like, it's like it is this miraculous thing, and yet it's this thing that we participate in, that is very much a fruit of our labor. You know, like what a wonderful thing that we can grow so much. That's the irony for us as a country. You know, like we Americans, we think we're hot shit or whatever. Like we're America, whatever. Like. And America's a cool place. I'm not trying to down it in that or anything, but the irony there is like we treat ourselves terribly. Like the way we function psychologically, we act as if we're capable of hardly anything. Like we've so let ourselves get sucked into this lie that we can't handle anything. Like that the avoidance of pain is the ultimate goal of all of life. Like, and it's just like that's just not true. That's just not true. Sorry, my computer is doing something here. It's overheating. Give me a second so that it doesn't crash our video here. All right. That's how you know this isn't scripted and isn't edited, because things like that can happen. So yeah. If you are on meds, please do not feel any shame over that. But use the opportunity. You have the gift of medication that's providing hopefully some kind of stability for you. And so the invitation is, what are you doing with that stability? Are you wasting it by just avoiding more? Or are you using it to help you heal? I'm not trying to shame you there, but I am trying to challenge you. And I'm trying to challenge you from a place of, I believe that you're capable of more. If you're not in therapy, get your ass in therapy. Or find somebody like a therapist. It doesn't have to be therapy, but find somebody who can help you do the hard inner work. And maybe that starts by just finding someone whom you can say, I'm scared. I know I have work to do and I'm scared. And that's okay. It is scary. And I get scared too. I still get scared. I've had things that I've worked on in recent months that have been so scary. I keep looking for and pressing into those places that are scary. Because I don't want my life to shrink. That's why this matters. You matter. Your life matters. You are capable of more than you think. I also want to say and be clear, if you're on medication, like don't just like go off of it, you know? Like medications are complicated. They affect your brain chemistry in all sorts of ways. Like obviously I'm advocating for a different relationship with medication. But please don't misunderstand me in terms of like, I'm not saying, well, throw your meds out, meds are bad. Like, no, if you're on medication, you're on it for a reason. Like, so don't make any changes without talking to your doctor. And it may not be wise for you to make changes for a long time. What I'm inviting you to do is make use of the fact that you have meds. Make use of the fact that meds are providing some stability. And start to think in terms of the conversation shifting from my meds are supposed to help me feel better to my meds are here to assist me in doing hard work. Because that can help you be more strategic, you know, if you want to explore tweaking, you know, having conversations with your doctor about tweaking your meds to facilitate the difficult inner work. If you're like, you know what, I'm realizing I want to do some difficult inner work. I want to work through the things that my meds are helping me with, but I need us to like tweak them a little bit so that actually I can feel a little bit more of what I've been using them to not feel. But I want to not like just, you know, overdo that and like totally destabilize myself, right? Like, so just be really wise, be careful, and be in conversation with your doctor. Especially the longer you've been on meds. And look, if you need to be on meds the rest of your life, that's okay. But again, make use of it, you know? Like, because psychiatric meds are not like insulin. Like that's a lie of how kind of our culture has framed things for a number of reasons. But it's not the same. And so like, you know, it's keep pressing into how you can heal, you know? You're going to have limps, right? Just like I do. You don't need to be ashamed about being on meds. But you may need to feel some guilt about abandoning yourself in various ways. The distinction there, and I think I've talked about this in other videos, but like guilt is a healthy thing. Shame is not helpful. Shame says we're a terrible person, and that's just not true. Guilt is an acknowledgement that sometimes we fuck up. Like really, we all fuck up regularly. Like none of us is leading totally healthy lives, totally perfect lives. So guilt is just an acknowledgement of like, I fucked up. I haven't lived as I wish I would have lived in this area. And so I should feel bad about that. I need to feel the pain of that. Making that go away is not helpful. If you're not able to feel guilt, like that raises questions about whether you could be a sociopath. Like that's a scary thing, right? I mean, think about it. If none of us ever felt guilt, if we never felt remorse for hurting ourselves or hurting another, that's a really scary, cruel world. Like we need to feel guilt. Shame is not helpful though. Shame is that voice in us that says we're a terrible person because of this, that, and the other. And it's like, that's bullshit. Like, you're a good person and you have value. And I know you've done bad things because I've done bad things. And I know you failed to do good things because I've failed to do good things. So just try to own it. And try to turn towards those places and start stumbling along, you know, bringing healing. If you're not on meds, but that's something that you're feeling like you may need, like then certainly engage in the conversation with your counselor, with your doctor. But I want to encourage you to approach it from this standpoint of, I know I need to work on stuff, but I'm struggling to be able to function enough to like, you know, do my job or to make it to therapy. I need something to provide some stability so I can do that work, but I don't want it to take away too much of the feeling because I need to be able to feel this stuff because our feelings are telling us things, you know, it's valuable information, right? Like, yeah. Your pain is not your enemy. It's trying to tell you something. Sometimes we do need to tamp it down a bit. We need to turn the volume down, maybe is a better way of putting it. But we don't want to silence it. We don't want to totally silence it because then, like I said, physically, if I've had surgery and I totally silence my pain and I let myself like buy into the fantasy of, well, I feel fine, so I'm going to go, whatever, do this crazy physical thing. And then, oh, I'm bleeding everywhere because I just tore all my stitches open. Like, no, I want to take some of the edge off. That's helpful, like especially to sleep. But I want to stay in touch with that. I'm injured. I'm healing. I need to feel some of that so that I can be careful with it, so that I can be kind to it, right? Like, so I can be gentle with myself. So pain is an invitation to be kind to ourselves. It's an invitation to, to love ourselves. So don't just seek to silence it. You may need to, play with the volume a bit, right? Whether through medication or other things, and that's fine. But be intentional about it. And the goal here isn't to okay, how much pain can I bear so that I can just have whatever, some kind of thing about stoic, I can just handle so much pain. It's that's not the point either. I mean, that could be its own extreme, right? It's about growth. It's about healing, right? I'm grateful. Thank goodness we live in the day and age that we do. That I live in this time. I'm glad for pain meds. I'm glad for psychiatric meds. I'm glad for all sorts of things that can help us bear our lives better. But let's actually use them for the purpose of bearing our lives, not for avoiding our lives. Don't avoid yourself. Don't avoid your life. It's an important life. You're an important person. I'm wanting to hug each one of you, even though I don't know you. Well, some of you I know, I'm sure, but I hope you can feel my heart in all this, even though I think a lot of the things I'm saying I suspect may be really challenging for some of you. But I hope you can feel where this is coming from. Well, until next time, peace be with you.